My name is Richard Hollis, and I never thought I would see the day when my own son and his wife would turn against me. I had raised my boy with love, discipline, and respect for family values. I believed he would stand by me in my old age, the way I once stood by him during his childhood. But life has a cruel way of showing us truths we don't want to face. It all started subtly. At first, I dismissed the little things. My favorite armchair suddenly moved out of the living room, the newspaper I always read going missing, my glasses not where I'd left them. My son's wife, Beatrice, would smile politely and say, "Oh, Richard, you must have forgotten." But I knew I hadn't. I wasn't losing my memory. I wasn't becoming forgetful. I knew exactly where I had placed my things. Still, I stayed quiet, convincing myself it was harmless. After all, she was family, wasn't she? Then came the humiliations. At dinner, Beatrice would correct me mid-sentence. "Richard, that's not how it happened. You must be confused again," she'd say with that same sweet smile, looking at my son, Thornton, as if to signal something unspoken. And Thornton, he never defended me. At first, I thought he was simply avoiding conflict. But slowly, the reality dawned on me. He was complicit. They had a plan. One evening, I overheard them in the kitchen. Beatrice whispered, "If we can prove he's incompetent, the house will be ours. He won't even realize what's happening." My heart sank. My own flesh and blood, my only son, was plotting against me, alongside his wife. The evidence piled up quickly. My credit card vanished, and suddenly charges appeared for things I'd never bought. My passport went missing from the drawer where I always kept it. Even my medical prescriptions were tampered with. When I confronted them, they turned it around on me. Thornton sighed, patting my shoulder. "Dad, you're imagining things. Maybe it's time we think about assisted living. You can't handle everything on your own anymore." Assisted living. The words cut like a knife. I wasn't weak. I wasn't senile. I was being cornered in my own home. That night, as I sat in my room, staring at the empty space where my passport used to be, I realized I had two choices. Either let them destroy me, or fight back silently, on my own terms. So I began planning. I acted forgetful on purpose. I played the part they wanted me to play. I let Beatrice believe her manipulations were working. Thornton started speaking to me slowly, like I was a child. But behind my tired eyes, I was watching, calculating, preparing. One morning, I put on my old suit, the same one I wore to my wedding, the same one I wore to my boy's graduation. It didn't fit like it used to, but it reminded me of who I was. I poured myself a cup of coffee, steadying my trembling hands, and whispered to myself, "They think I've already lost, but I'm not done yet." And with that, my quiet revenge began. The days that followed were a performance. I let Beatrice and Thornton think they were winning. If she moved my belongings, I pretended to forget. If they spoke about me as though I wasn't in the room, I stared blankly at my plate. Inside, I was boiling, but outwardly, I remained silent. One evening, I heard them laughing in the living room. Beatrice said, "It's only a matter of time. Once the doctor signs the papers, Richard won't be able to manage anything. Thornton will finally have the deed to the house." My chest tightened, but I kept my face blank as I stood quietly by the hallway, listening. My own son, my blood, just nodded. "It's for the best," he murmured. "For the best? For his best, maybe." I knew I had to act before they stripped me of everything. The next morning, I walked to the local bus station. Thornton thought I was napping in my chair, but I had slipped out quietly. My old shoes pressed against the pavement as I carried a small bag, the only belongings they hadn't taken from me. At the station, I sat on a wooden bench, watching buses come and go. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of freedom. But my hands trembled as I clutched the armrest. Could I really leave the home I built with my late wife? Could I abandon the memories of raising my son within those walls? A young man beside me noticed my shaking hands. "Are you all right, sir?" he asked gently. I forced a smile. "I'm fine, son. Just thinking about which road to take." The truth was, I didn't know where I would go. My passport was gone. My money was in their control. But I still had one thing left, my mind. And I was going to use it. That night, when I returned home, Beatrice's eyes widened. "Oh, Richard, where have you been? We were worried sick." Her voice was drenched in fake concern. Thornton stood behind her, arms crossed, watching me. "I went for a walk," I said calmly. "Needed fresh air." Beatrice exchanged a glance with Thornton, probably thinking my wandering off would only strengthen their case against me. But inside I smirked. Let them believe that, because I had already made a secret appointment with an attorney. While they plotted to take everything from me, I was setting up a will, a trust, and protections they didn't even know existed. The next family dinner, I sat at the table quietly while Beatrice and Thornton spoke over me, as if I wasn't there. They thought they were silencing me. They thought I was powerless. But I wasn't powerless. I was patient. And soon, very soon, they would learn that the man they thought was broken was the man who still held all the strings. The night of reckoning arrived quietly. Thornton and Beatrice had arranged for a doctor's visit, someone they'd handpicked, hoping he would sign off on my incompetence. I sat in my chair, hands folded, pretending to be frail and confused. The doctor asked simple questions: my name, the date, where I lived. I answered softly, pausing as though I had to search my memory. Beatrice nodded smugly each time, as if to say, "See? He's slipping." But then came the moment I had been waiting for. The doctor asked, "Mr. Hollis, do you know who manages your finances?" I straightened in my chair, my voice suddenly firm. "Yes, I do. And I also know that my son and his wife have been stealing from me, hiding my passport, and conspiring to take my home." The room froze. Thornton's face turned pale. Beatrice's fake smile shattered. The doctor looked shocked. "Is this true?" he asked them. I pulled out the documents from my pocket, the ones my attorney had prepared. Bank records, proof of unauthorized charges, and a statement from the lawyer himself. "Everything you need is here," I told him. Beatrice stammered. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's confused." But the doctor wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at me, with respect. That night, when they realized the law was now involved, their plan began to collapse. Thornton tried to apologize. "Dad, we just thought." I raised my hand, silencing him. "No, you thought only of yourselves. You forgot the man who raised you, who sacrificed everything for you. And now, you'll face the consequences of your greed." I could see it in his eyes, shame mixed with fear. For the first time in years, I felt powerful again. The following weeks were a storm. Legal battles, angry whispers, the cold silence of a house divided. But through it all, I stood tall. I wasn't the senile old man they had painted me to be. I was Richard Hollis, a father, a survivor, and still the master of my own fate. And when the dust settled, the house remained mine. The accounts were secured. My independence, protected. Thornton and Beatrice were left with nothing but the weight of their betrayal. I sat alone in my armchair one evening, sipping coffee, staring at the fading sunset. My heart ached, not because I lost them, but because they lost themselves. Family can betray you. Blood can turn cold. But dignity is something no one can steal. And as long as I breathe, that dignity will always be mine.